What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tsla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for as time progresses, and also what's happening with some new news for tomorrow as we have Jerome Powell giving another speech. And this time it's going to be a long speech, a big one, and this could actually shake the market. So you want to be very careful with what Powell's about to say. Before I break anything down, all this information, before I talk about what's going on with Jerome Powell and the overall markets, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Now, the offer ends in just 7 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So, when it comes to NIO, we had a very flat day. NIO really didn't do much. It came down a bit towards 7.68, came back up, and then this thing ended up just continuing to trade sideways. We are kind of range bound for today. We saw a little bit of buying that came, but overall, it's still not looking the strongest as NIO was flat. We saw the market play a big role in helping NIO, recover the way it did. But now the question is, will NIO try to continue to push, or is NIO going to see some downside? Well, for tomorrow, I just wanted to call out that in the morning we have initial jobless claims coming out. Then we have continuing jobless claims and other pieces of data, which could affect the market to some extent. But then after that, around noon, we have the WASDE report, which could cause some volatility for Eastern Standard Time at noon. But after that, at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. And what this guy says could this time shake the market even more, because this time he's going to be talking about the economy. He's going to talk about the Fed's monetary policy. Whatever this guy ends up saying is going to be very important. So he's going to be talking about the dual focus on returning inflation to the 2% target while trying to avoid excessive tightening. He's going to talk about the Fed's policy. He's going to talk about inflation, and this is going to be very important. So we're going to be watching what Jerome Powell says during his speech. The guy is back again, and we're going to be listening to what on earth he says, how it affects the market. So we'll be waiting for that. When it comes to Disney, they just reported their earnings. They're expanding cost cutting, plans by $2 billion, and they ended up doing better than expected when it comes to earnings. So not bad whatsoever. EPS was a beat. Revenue was just barely a beat. And their subscriptions in total for the Disney Plus subscribers has gone up to 150 plus million. So not bad whatsoever. Now, when it comes to other earnings, AMC just announced earnings. They ended up beating, but we're just waiting for the call. And now for NIO, there's this news coming out. Can NIO end up doubling in value? And looking at the different things that are affecting NIO has been underperforming compared to the market for quite some time. They're talking about the fact that it's burning a lot of cash, and there's still a lot of improvements that have to be made. But for 2025, they're mentioning that with the macro levels right now in the economy, it could still affect NIO, but NIO still plans on entering the US market by 2025. And this in turn could be difficult for them. They're talking about how its margins are not looking the best and factors like this. However, despite all of this, there is still strong projected growth for deliveries and improvements to those margins. And this is what Morgan Stanley is talking about. They're saying that NIO stock should double over the next year. And they're saying that we could see $19.20 by next year, a 141% upside with a mean target of $12.84. So buying this thing around $7 is still a steal, even if it's at $8, because this thing has potential to go all the way up to those levels. We're starting to see more analysts saying that NIO is becoming a better buy because of their improvements in the battery swapping network, the control they're going to be gaining most likely in the future over their production, and the improvements to margins that should be coming as time goes on. So I still believe in NIO. I still believe in its future, but know that it takes time for these margins to improve, and NIO just needs to be very, very patient. They're doing some things to cut their costs as they announced the reduction of the workforce. And we're going to be watching the ET7 at the next official car event, so it's going to be very cool. Volume was about 37 million, so very close to average, almost 38 million. And finally, looking at some data, we have a buy rating from Deutsche Bank. Price-price ratio is still flat. And finally, it's not really doing much from a technical standpoint. So what do I see moving forward? How do I think NIO is going to move? Looking at NIO, I'm anticipating that this thing is likely going to downtrend a bit in the future, but we're kind of just chopping sideways for now. So I think we might remain in the range. And then we're going to be watching to see how Jerome Powell affects us. But I believe NIO has more downside coming still because we haven't fully filled this gap down here at the 7.4 area. And if NIO loses 7.68, I anticipate it's going to come down. Now, we've been stuck in this range for today, and I think this range may hold us for tomorrow between 7.6 and $8. I think tomorrow we're going to pop a little bit in the morning, depending on initial jobless claims. And then we're going to likely see this thing slow down. And I think that NIO is going to make its way back down to 7.68, then bounce off that and close around 7.84. So look for a little pop, a drop just like today, and then a very, very flat close, somewhat in the red. And I'm anticipating that for tomorrow. However, as time goes on, I think that NIO could continue to sink lower. I think we have this gap to fill at 7.4. I think that NIO will make its way down there in the future. It may take a couple of days, but eventually we're going to see that. I say that because I think the market's going to sell off soon. If you look at SPY, we have a double bearish divergence developing. If it pumps a bit more thanks to Powell, I still think that this bearish divergence will remain. I think that we're still in a topping process because the market is still overextended. I think that 438 could be the top. As we have some very, very tight resistance, or it could go a bit higher towards 440 to 442 and then top over there. And then we're going to be expecting a big drop to fill the gap at 430 very soon. I think it's going to happen very, very soon. I'm leaning in that direction, and I think that the market's due for some downside. We've been pumping way too much. We're just getting green day after green day after green day, and the market is due for a change. We also have this tight resistance at the 438s that's coming. So I believe we also have a potential inverse head and shoulders like structure. Look for a little pop and drop or a drop from here, and I think that that's going to affect NIO eventually. Same thing on Tesla. Tesla could come up to this resistance right here uh, towards this 225 area, then reject, or it could just reject from here. And we have this gap to fill. I think it's going to eventually fill the gap, but it needs a little bit more time. I think that Aapl is establishing a bearish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. I think Aapl could pump to a maximum of 185, then reject, and start filling these imbalances closer to 180. So with this bearish divergence developing, I anticipate that Aapl could pump a little bit more and then reject. So 185 could come then a rejection, or it could reject from here. On the QQQ, I see the same thing potentially going on. We have a slight bearish divergence developing on the triple Q. We're still holding up nicely, so we're not ready yet. It could get very close towards 375, then reject from there and start coming down, or reject from here and make its way down towards 370. I anticipate that's going to happen. On Nvda, it's still holding up. We're not ready yet. It's actually going a little bit higher than expected. We have a bearish divergence that's still developing on the charts. Nvda looks like it could make its way up towards 470. If it breaks that, it could go a little higher towards 476, but I don't really see it breaking above that. I think that it could get very close to the 470 range, then reject. We have some tight resistance up there, or it could go a little higher to like 476 and then reject. And I think that a rejection is coming, and Nvidia is going to cool off and start filling some of its gaps down below. So look for a little bit more upside. It's going to be very limited though. We're not like that far away from that area, and then it's eventually going to sell off. So look for a little pop and drop or a sell off very soon. I think that Nvidia is in a topping process. I think upside is going to be limited. So what does this tell us about NIO? Yes, NIO could try to hold this range between 7.68 and $8 for an extended period of time. But in the future, over the next week or so, I think NIO is going to fill this gap down to 7.45. Look for some sideways price action for tomorrow as of right now. Unless we break below 7.68, then I expect us to come very close to 7.4. So for now, watch these levels, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next video for the time being. I'll see what happens with Jerome Powell's speech. The guy is speaking at 2 p.m. Look for a pop on NIO in the morning towards this $8 area, as we have a tendency of popping when we open. Look for a drop back down to this low, the 7.75 area, then a bounce and a close very close to 7.8 most likely. But if we lose 7.8, I expect some downside anyways. So I think NIO is going to see downside in the future. We just have to be very patient. And with that said, I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, guys. Remain calm, cool, and collected once again, and peace out.